So as Claire mentioned, I'll try to get this back. Great stuff. So as Claire mentioned, yeah, I'm Chief Value Officer at the Cohesive Group. I'll tell you what that means later. But today, more than anything, I want to talk to you about my other sort of job is with the Chartered Institute of Building. I chair their innovation panel, and one of the key things we look at is digital and what that means to the life cycle and to membership. For those that you don't know, the Chartered Institute of Building is a professional institute. It looks at construction management across the globe. We've got something like 60,000 members across there. And one of the things that we mentioned this morning we put together, it was published in June of this year, was our AI playbook. And I want to take some of the examples out of this. You can download it for free. All you got to do is type in your favourite search engine, CIB AI playbook, and it's downloadable. It's got lots of practical templates within there as well. I want to take you through our journey. We put together, if you like, our community of practice, our working group for it, who were a mixture. Some of them were grown-up AI professionals, such as Luke with there, and then you had people with myself from industry that were maybe in the, not maybe the 101, but the 102 of AI within there to look at the industry problems in terms of what they looked like. But I think it was overall, we tried to get a picture first off, where were we as a membership across the globe, especially from contracting entities, mainly SMEs as well. But the big thing was we're seeing this new term, this digital engineering environment appearing. I think you've maybe got a different idea what digital engineering is, but some of the key things we'd seen within it were obviously information management, ISO 19650. We're starting to see building information modeling, geospatial, already transforming what we're doing. But one of the big things that was really interesting, if you like, the data, the skills, capabilities that are coming there, we're not just changing the way we plan and build, but actually the big part as well is actually how we maintain and how we use existing infrastructure. So not just how we better create it, but how do we get more from the infrastructure we've seen. We also saw a convergence, this convergence of all these themes along with digital twin, artificial intelligence, but also gaming technology. And we also saw a big risk that people were not wanting to get the basics. Everybody was wanting to do something that was really shiny. Yeah, we've got to do AI because every client wants us to do AI without having clear use cases for it. But some of the things we did see, you can see within there, the top right, digital twinning starting to happen now at city scale. The one below it is serious gaming. It's a fusion reactor that people could actually transport in, all different scientists from around the globe. The bottom right one is starting to look at autonomous plant as well. Starting to see AI helping us actually drive plant within there as well. But one thing that came through, and I think it's been a key theme of today, that no matter what these construction are going to be doing, it needs to be based on quality connected data. So we're seeing much more trying to get contextualization, much more connection within there. And we saw 6 facets, if you like, of data quality that, which I'm sure everybody's going to download it tonight and read it. But accuracy and reliability, depending what your use case is, it's got to be dialed into the right amount, producing reliable results within there. Cost efficiency as well. One of the things we saw, if you don't get data quality right, it can actually have a huge, if you like, cost premium there. The idea is, you need to try and retrain the model, corrections and errors. So getting it wrong can have a big cost, if you like, issue with there. Generalizations, we mentioned bias mitigation, ethics, but also regulatory compliance as well. Much more now focused on actually, where's data being stored, how's it being shared, and start to think about, especially around about GDPR. But we saw 6 facets to data quality. But in terms of that foundational part of AI, these were hugely critical in terms of where we started. The reason we actually got into AI was actually starting to look at, we were actually going to look at Industry 4.0. That was a lot of interest for membership. And we talked about the journey that members were on. Most people were on, if you like, starting off down at the BIM piece. They were all in a journey, maybe 10 years, starting to get common data environments from there. But they're now starting to think about connection. How did you get the early parts of a digital twin? Let's call it a descriptive twin in place within there. So starting to connect, if you like, into especially ERP systems, computer-assisted facilities modeling. But then how did you move from there to a much more operational twin that's going to bring in sensors, Internet of Things, cloud computing, analytics, but also looking at, if you go outside, how does it fit with modern method construction, advanced manufacture, human machine, and we were going right through, but the end of it was actually artificial intelligence. So we decided actually to try and start with the end in mind and start with artificial intelligence and work our way back in terms of what it looked like, and hence the AI playbook that you're all going to download tonight. One of the things, I'm not going to spend any time on this because I think it has been mentioned, but we did see a huge symbiotic relationship between digital twinning and AI. And it was interesting. I think somebody gave us a quote. I like to say it was mine, but the thought about a digital twin as a flat football. It needs hydrated. It needs hydrated with good quality data. And the more we can create that linkage, if you like, as you can see, that goes through between all this information coming in and making sense of the big data that's going to feed your digital twin, the more and more you can get. So I'm not going to spend any time on it, but understanding that relationship was hugely important. I hope you're going to like this one, because this actually really tied into what we talked about this morning. Starting off with AI, vision, and strategy. So, we said to most organizations, if you do want to start with the North Star. But align it to your own goals. Don't just go and create an AI strategy for the sake of creating an AI strategy. Look at your organizational goals and objectives and try and create these North Stars. But we also said, look at them in the context of short, the tactical plan, the mid-term and the longer term. Roughly, most members were 0 to 2 was short, 2 to 5 was mid, and then 5 to 10 was the long term. Each of them had a North Star within there as well. And we felt from the community's practice, the job was to cast back, if you like, starting with the North Star and work back the way to look at in terms of what are the outcomes that support it, and then looking at the objectives and the use cases there and how we measure it, and then what interventions, what changes and investments do you actually have to make to get there? And along that was, if you like, running along the bottom of it, when you start to identify these things, it starts to build your AI use cases, it starts to build your strategy. But also we found is you need to have that tactical plan, tactical strategy as well for that first, if you like, the short term. And we call that the experimentation and development phase, where you're testing your use cases that within there as well. But having a very clear organizational AI vision, but one that's aligned very tightly to your organizational goals, policies, and objectives, especially your asset management strategy. The next part was looking at AI use cases. Now, one of the things that we said, they should not be vague. They should be very, if you like, be able to well articulated with them, with clear objectives in there. But other things that came out was it should have value right through the whole of the value chain. It shouldn't be just something that's there for the early stages. You also think, gosh, our use case, when you get into operation, it can be 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years. And you think things like now, like PFI handback out, it should have a value case that can go right the way through it, especially in terms of downstream into these spaces where we're thinking about AI for asset performance, asset resilience as well. So it should be able to provide benefits and understanding across the life cycle, i.e. people should be able to understand the use case. We also used on the right-hand side, I don't know how many folk have seen, if you like, the need for value frameworks now. If you're making a decision, it should be a value-based decision. The Institute of Asset Management have now said, if you're using any asset management, it should be based upon a value framework that goes beyond cost. Cost is one of them, but you can see with the one within there, that's from the Four Capitalist Coalition. It looks in terms of biodiversity, it looks at social value within there as well. So it becomes a good framework to test any of your use cases. It's going to bring you benefit in terms of those different dimensions. What does it look like for you as well? We also saw the whole part round about change management. Yeah, we can all do this, but can it be adopted? Can it be sustained? Are people going to use it on the site? So these were key factors when we looked at use cases as well. We also realised there's a huge amount of education that needs done, and everybody jumped straight into the AI piece, but as part of it, we wanted to make sure people understood, if you like, capabilities that organisations now need for data science. How does machine learning and deep learning fit into the equation as well? The other things that we found were hugely important were the subcomponents, if you like, and the key ones were obviously the natural language processing. We've talked today, but probably two that we saw were round about as well: construction robotics and computer vision. Computer vision, we saw a huge amount of use cases in as well. I think we've seen a few of them today. Especially in terms of the safety use cases on site, in terms of, being able to compare it to, if you like, a method statement, is the person wearing the right PPE within there. Being able to bring it as well in terms of augmented reality, as a worker within a safe zone within there as well. So much more real-time computation, but also being able to take it through into the operation with facilities management. They can pull up, and detect if something failed, be able to pull up and actually make decisions in real time with there. But actually, I think today is as much about education. So what I would say is don't just jump into AI, have a look at some of these subfields, especially the deep learning and machine learning piece as well. We saw this, if you like, converging with robotics and advanced manufacture and modern method construction. When you go out, it's also a big part of CitA's programme. The image you're seeing is the Manufacturing Technology Centre in Coventry. Again, trying to bring, if you like, digital twinning, AI, and advanced manufacture together. A bit closer to home. Anybody know where this is? I'll give you a clue, a bit closer to home, Scotland. So this is BEST, the Built Environment Sustainability Transformation. We've got, if you like, a sandpit where you can go and actually train within there. You can try out, so you try before you buy sort of thing in Scotland to actually show how this convergence, especially with MMC, starts to work within there, how AI, digital twinning is all starting to come together. I mentioned earlier, the next thing we've done was start to build a use case. We built, if you like, if you can't read them all, don't worry about it, but we built a suite for a portfolio of potential use cases. We think these are the use cases. There were also a hypothesis that said, we believe there's a potential benefit of X by doing this. So we didn't know because we hadn't tested it yet. But then what we do is created sandpit environments. So a sandpit was a digital environment with synthetic data, data that wasn't off a project or anything, but we could start to test, if you like, these hypotheses, the workflows, if you like, offline. We could refine them, we could refine the model as well. So creating, if you like, the use cases, looking at, what the benefit is, looking at what information and data you need to actually test it, do you have access to it, and some of the legal issues. But it became a great framework for us is creating that use case of portfolios, again, that had a line of sight back to the objectives as well. What we then done, back to the old North Stars, is we tried to plot them, you can see with there across the three horizons. So we looked in terms of along the x-axis, your timeline, but also looking at the technology readiness level of the different technologies that were going to support it as well, and the different markets. And it became a great framework to drop the use cases in. What do we want to test in the short term? What do we want to maybe wait 2 years for? But we need to start building data sets and what to with there. So that three horizons model became a great way of really practically underpinning and demonstrating the strategy within there as well. A lot of the use cases we find, we try and go through different things. We find use cases at all stages, especially within asset management. You can see some of the key ones we found within there. Automated artificial intelligence of road inspection. Is the paint line present? Is it visible within there? All the things such as pothole detection, again, using sensing technologies and cameras, but also allowing, if you like, the transport users to be able to report problems as well, look at servitization of the data. But things like, not just, if you like, the road inspections, but be able to generate, if you like, the bill of materials and the work orders from it as well. So huge amount of use cases. The one on right is looking at a dam project. You can see all the sort of points if they're the sensors, but looking at the pressure on it. Huge amount of data, bringing it in again, that was constantly looking in terms of machine learning. We talked to look at what's potential spalling, where there can be potential cracking within there as well. So a huge one. And at the same time, I don't remember if it was the same problems across Ireland, but in the UK, reinforced autoclave aerated concrete was a big, big problem. Schools, hospitals were starting to crumble. And people were trying to make sense of all these survey data. So we started to use artificial intelligence to be able to look at the survey data, using machine learning to try and find patterns within there as well, that manually would take in surveyors, structural engineers, months to undertake. So being able to look at patterns within there as well. But the machine learning part, a huge, huge part of it as well. So what we did when you do go into it as well, we looked at the machine learning use cases and went back this morning. We looked at 3 different areas of unsupervised learning, supervised learning, and the reinforced learning you saw the video of at the same time. So you can see, well, I don't know how well you can see it, but again, I recommend it. What can machine learning do to help support some of your use cases as well? So when you do load it, you can go download it, you can go into this in a lot of detail, but we found it really, really useful to try and understand, if you like, what does it mean in terms of, big data design visualization, what does it mean in terms of, optimized design or structural discovery. But it came a great way, because everybody jumped to the AI bit first off, and I said, well, actually, when we do this use cases, looking at machine learning, it was hugely powerful as well. Just some examples we did come through in terms of, looking at, as we've seen already, in terms of optimal designs, it looks pretty pathetic now, because mine doesn't move. But you can start to see, but the bit I was interested in was the bit on the right-hand side. In the UK, 99.5% of our infrastructure exists. It's already there. How do we make that more sustainable? How do we make AI work for what we've got? Now, the one on the right-hand side is from Scotland. There's a heritage building. And one of the things is we've got a lack of heritage surveyors now. So laser scan, and then machine learning starting to count the number of stones within there. We're able to tell, what it was, if there's mechanical damage, and you can see within the right-hand side how much is the mortar bed deteriorated. Now, from that, it could generate a schedule, a bill of repairs, in a matter of minutes, which would take otherwise months or years. So we found real practical solutions within heritage assets as well. And I think sometimes that's our biggest challenge. What does that look like? We mentioned this a lot today, but one of the big things that came out was speak to your legal counsel, get them involved with this as well. We came up with 4 things that were really, really important with there. But it shouldn't stifle innovation. But think about copyright, especially when you use generative AI. Think about confidentiality, where you're using your data from as well. And think about, there's actually 5 things: reliance and reliability, your AI results, and again, personal data. But ethics and bias came up as such a big one within there as well. And we're lucky enough, some of them will think it was me, Winfield, who's one of the key lawyers that have done all the things. But when you do, there's a checklist within the report that gives you a series of practical things to consider as you go through it as well. We've talked a lot today about hallucinations and AI biases. It's real. You can see there's a good one. What's the world record for crossing the English Channel entirely on foot? I think, Alan, this is one of your relatives that have tried it, sort of thing. But if you do go into it, your ChatGPT will tell you it's practical and there's a world record for actually crossing it on foot. And I think it's just a good example. Again, often if you like, it's the poor data that's, you've been teaching it within there as well. On the right-hand side, we've also got this horrible thing called the black box, isn't it? You put a load of data into it, you put your input, and it spits something out on the other side. You're like, that's great. But how do you understand what happens within there? Do you understand how the decisions were made? So it was the first time I'd heard it, but I'm sure AI experts will tell me this concept of a white box. You actually understand that your large language model, you've put the rules and the decisions into it, become with there. So understanding what happens within the black box is hugely important. How are decisions made? Is it back to back with your own risk and value framework? The other thing as well that came back was, the bit we saw as well is think more and more about, if you like, a master data approach as well. Bang your data once has got many use cases. These were just some of the things that, we'd seen. Making sure it's got a line of sight between data and architecture. Make sure you take time as well to think about the information delivery planning process. Build it into appropriate into all your appointments within there as well. But build the digital capabilities, and then you can do, these are just some of the cool stuff that we'd seen, bring it into gaming technology and AI together to try and look at scenario planning within there. The one that you're seeing just now is an offshore wind farm. It's pulling in real-time data, it's pulling in weather data, and it's actually looking at different ones. If you're going out in a support boat to there, when's the best time of day to travel, to avoid, if you like, the weather. So, but, bang data once, bang at quality has got many use cases. Finally, this is probably where we start, and I think this is a good takeaway. What does it look like if you are going on a journey within there? What does it look like with your roadmap and the power? So the AI strategy, build a strategy and a roadmap that's aligned with your business objectives. Develop your AI policies, but make sure you're building, if you like, ethics. Think about the biases, the fairnesses within there as well. Make sure you've got your AI use cases built, but also look in terms of, do you have the data that can support it? Build a plan in terms of how you're going to test them. We mentioned these virtual sandpits. Also look at your existing data within there, do a data quality check, and look at your infrastructure. Is the infrastructure got your business ready to actually be able to do some of this computational development? Think about upskilling. We've done a lot of capability assessments from a data science point of view. Where do you want to be, Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and so on? And then you get to do that fun part. Look at the technologies. There is a lot of good technology out there, especially that's free. Don't get bought always into ecosystems within there as well. But take time out to discover it, try different technologies. Get the pilot projects that are going to demonstrate proof of value. Now, that's not in terms of a long-term sort of thing, but when we looked at it, it was very using agile workforce. Get the flywheel, doing a small win that you can take to a board and say, actually, we've got the first small win, the first increment, and build the momentum to move on to the next one. And once you get that, you can start to think about refining your large language model, and then you can actually, start to think about deploying. But if one thing for today, get started in your journey. Don't stick your head in the sand within there. And hopefully that's what CitA is about. It's about trying to take everybody on a journey. But let's go back to the very beginning. we cannot continue to do what we've been doing. It's just incredible. You know, you think the opportunity we've got within there, you know, be able to thrive both locally and globally as well. So thank you for listening. Please download the book. It's free of charge. You can draw on it or whatever. So thank you. Off, perfect. Thank you.